All right, hello class. So today we're going to be looking at an example of poetry related to our studies on Black history, the topic that we've been focusing on this last week, and we're going to determine how to say tricky compound words by breaking them up into their smaller word parts that we are more familiar working with, you know? And then we'll be able to identify the meaning of the compound words and see how the meaning changes when we separate the words versus when they're together to create that one word. I'm going to use examples of words brought up in our word study lesson from yesterday, as well as words I found in your writing notebooks or books and articles that we have been reading. We're going to start with another poem by Lucille Clifton, who we should remember as a Black American poet, writer, and educator who focused on the struggles Black and African American people face in our country. Now, I'm going to read the poem aloud as you follow along with the handout that I've provided you, and you guys are going to identify the different compound words that you see in the poem, and maybe see if there's any compound words that you recognize, compound words from our word sort from yesterday, familiar words that you see. All right, so the poem is called Won't You Celebrate With Me by Lucille Clifton. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model, born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up, here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight, my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. All right, now you're going to turn and you're going to talk with a friend and you're going to identify one of the compound words. You're going to discuss where you would break it apart and why. Maybe see if there's a familiar compound word in there. All right, so during this time, I would give students about 60 to 90 seconds to discuss. I would be walking around as they're discussing, seeing if they need any help, maybe giving them a little guidance, on how to break apart words if they're not familiar with it from the lesson prior. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to share our responses, share what you discussed with your partner on the different compound words that we found in the poem, and other groups are going to give you a thumbs up if they agree with how you broke down the compound word, or a thumbs down if they think that you need to break it down a different way. All right, and within the students' responses, we found that the first compound word we identified was starshine. Students here decided to break up the word starshine right here between the words star and shine, because these two words can stand alone. They work by themselves, they work together to create starshine, or they can be apart and used in different sentences without the other word. The second word we identified was everyday. Students gave a thumbs up to break down everyday between every and day, because again, key compound words are these words can stand alone. They can work without every, can work without day, and day can work without every. All right, and the last word we looked at, the class identified that it was a word from our word sort from yesterday, and that word from the poem was something. This is a very common compound word we see a lot of places, which students have said they've seen it in a lot of readings and such. And they gave a thumbs up to split it between the words some and thing, like we did yesterday, just a little bit review to look at compound words. Some can stand by itself and thing can stand by itself. All right, good job everyone. Now that we are done with that, and now that we are familiar with identifying compound words, we are going to do an activity that involves you using one of the compound words that we will be working a lot with as we dive deeper into Black history, our topic of Black history. And what you're going to do is you're going to use one of these words to write a poem or a short story. You are going to work with a partner and create a piece that features the compound word that I will assign to you and your partner, as well as the words that make up your compound word. So for example, if your word is stereotype, you have to use the whole word stereotype in your story or your poem, but you also have to use just the word stereo and just the word type separately. So the reason we're doing this is because this helps us see how they have the word has different meanings when they're separated, because stereo and type used in different sentences do not mean the same thing as stereotype when you put the words together. All right, so what I need everyone to find a partner. Once you have found your partner, you need to sit with them and add some desks. All right, so everyone has located their partner. So this is what we're gonna do. From Mundo up and over, you guys are gonna be corner A, and your focus is going to be stereotype. This is your compound word, so write this at the top of your page. Over here, from Vanessa up and over, you guys are gonna be group B, corner B, and your word is overpopulated. Write that at the top of your page. All right, over here, corner C, your word is going to be outrage. So write that down. And this back last corner over here, your word is gonna be lawmaker. So write that down there. All right, and then for groups that need some support, if you guys are a little bit confused, you don't really know what the meaning of your word is or how to use it, I will provide you with definitions, pictures, and an example of a short story or poem that I have created. All right, and then once you and your partner are all finished with your creation, your story, or your poem, you will work on the rest of your independent reading tasks for this reading workshop that we are doing. All right, so as I was walking around listening to students work on this, I had a group of students in that was using the compound word outrage that needed a little bit of extra help. So what I did was I provided them with a kid-friendly definition. So I said for the word outrage, we can say that's a strong reaction of anger. So like being so mad that you throw something, or you're yelling, or you're screaming. And a visual that I provided with these students was a picture of a man that looked like he was yelling so hard, he was so angry, just filled with rage that he like screamed a hole through his computer screen. And a short story I wrote, just to kind of get their wheels turning, give them some inspiration. This is what I did. I said, yesterday, I went out with my friends to the park. So there's me using the word out, which is a part of the compound word outrage. Yesterday, I went out with my friends to the park. There was a young kid stomping their feet, rage, because they had just broken their jump rope. There I used the second part of the compound word rage by saying the kid was filled with rage. Their mom's voice shook with outrage as she screamed at them to behave appropriately. And there in that last sentence is where I used the full compound word outrage. So this is an example of a short story, and this is what I would give students, especially English language learners that need a little more guidance. Just give them a little more help, a little more inspiration. All right. So now it seems like everyone has finished their poems and short stories. So what we're gonna do is corner A is gonna switch their stories with groups from corner B, and corner C with corner D. You guys are gonna swap stories. And your goal now is to work with your partner, and you're going to read these short stories and poems, and you're going to identify the compound word that they used. What you're gonna do is you're gonna work on breaking it up. So you have to identify how you break those words apart, like how we did with the words in the poems, like the word something, we use the line, how you're gonna break it apart, and then underline these two separate words to break it down correctly. And then after you're done with breaking down the compound word, you have to locate the words in the short story or poem that make up the compound word. Like I said, so if my word is stereotype, I'm looking for the word stereo and I'm putting a check mark above it, and I'm looking for the word type and I'm putting a check mark above it. They have to be separately. And if they're not presented in the group's poem or story that you're reading, you're just gonna put an X at the bottom of the sheet, and you're gonna write the two words separately that they should have included in their story or their poem. After you and your group mate or your partner are finished reading the story and locating the compound word and breaking it down, what you're gonna do is you're gonna write your names on the back of the sheet, and you're gonna turn it into the turn-in basket, and then return back to your seats. All right, so now that it seems like everyone's finished, we've turned everything in, I wanna know how comfortable all of you are with reading and writing compound words. How comfortable are you with dealing with it? So what we're gonna do is everyone's going to close their eyes, and they're going to hold up a one finger if they feel like, compound words are really tricky, I'm just not really understanding, which is completely okay. We're going to be working with these words a ton as you guys move on through the school years. So it's okay if you don't understand. I need to know that so we can really dive into them. Hold up a 2 if you're like, yeah, I kind of understand compound words, but I need a little more practice, maybe a little more work with the trickier ones. Or a 3 if you're like, you know what, I really understand compound words, I know how to break them down, I know how to decode them, I know how to read certain parts to identify big compound words that I don't know. That's when you're gonna hold up a 3. You're gonna say, you know what, I can do it on my own, I can figure it out. Okay, so now everyone's gonna close their eyes, and on the count of 3, you're gonna hold up a finger on how you feel, okay? 1, 2, 3. So then now what I would do is I would mark down all the students that held up a 1 and a 2 and a 3 so I can see which students I would need to like focus on a little more. It just gives me a little better direction when I'm doing my instruction and pulling groups aside and working with them individually. All right, everyone can open their eyes. So this concludes our readers workshop for today, and tomorrow we will start class by reviewing some of the short stories or poems that with the tricky compound words that we struggled with, and we're just gonna review them, go over them again, and then we're going to look for more examples of these words in texts that we are reading about Black history. We're gonna stay on our topic and identify other compound words within our text. So good work everyone today, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.